Okay, we'll go here. Good morning and welcome to Open Heart Spiritual Center's live stream for this Sunday, April the 5th, 2020. Thank you for joining us today. We're excited about this morning's celebration. We are so glad to have you with us in this time together, in this new way again that we've talked about of doing things. We hope that you are being safe at home, and we continue to remember and miss each and every one of you. We miss the interaction that we have with one another. I'd like to begin by centering ourselves with a word of prayer. So we come this day, let us take the opportunity and the moment to turn within. Giving thanks for this day and for this time together, we give abundant thanks for the opportunity to reach across the many miles and the many different destinations and places in which we do to connect. For we know that we are reminded that there is no place where God is not. And because we are one with God, because God lives, moves, and has his being in each and every one of us, we know that there is no distance, no separation between any of us. And so today we come in this awareness, we come in this knowing, and we allow ourselves to be in this space and place of celebration today. We remember our world. We remember those around the world who continue to deal with this COVID-19, this coronavirus, and all of the things that are coming in the aftermath. The people who lose loved ones, the ones who experience economic challenges and physical challenges and other things. We continue to do all that we can to open our heart space that we might be of help to one another. And we continue to have hope to know that in the midst of all that is taking place, that here is an opportunity to see this as a life reset, to reset the way in which we used to do things and reset the way in which was the normal and embrace and anticipate and welcome the new normal. We pray today for this time together in this celebration, for all that flows forth for us absolutely, perfectly, and completely. And so it is. Our theme for this month is radiant health and vitality. And I invite you to join me in the affirmation for today.
I am sustained by divine energy, which flows through me as radiant health and vitality. Every atom of my being responds to this divine presence. I completely surrender myself to it, and so it is.
And Emma will now come with our affirmative reading.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Today's affirmative reading comes from Oprah Winfrey and Deepak Chopra. They are right now doing a 21-day a 21-day meditation series. And this reading is coming from day 3, turning doubt and uncertainty into hope. The centering thought for the day was hope makes me strong and secure. The message of the day was there was never without the glasses is better. There was never a night or a problem that could defeat sunrise or hope. And that quote came from Bernard Williams. Self-doubt and fear in the face of uncertainty can paralyze us and blind us to the good options that are available. Even in the midst of fear and anxiety, we always have within us the creative capacity to meet the situation and make use of it for our personal development and growth. We find that when hope is awakened in the silence of meditation, we become self-confident and fearless. This allows us to look at uncertainty calmly and clearly and to find the opportunities for growth and new possibilities. And so it is. And the next thing that's coming up is Mary.
We do apologize for there not being sound. We're doing everything, tweaking the platform and doing all that we can to make Mary's sound come through. And what she did was great. And we're going to continue to work on this, continue to tweak things so that we can finally get things into place. And great. And we're going to continue to work on this, continue to tweak things so that we can finally get things into place. And I'll go to the next. Want to remind you that another way that we have put together of connecting is that each Thursday we have our Open Heart Thursday Connections, and that is at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. It gives you an opportunity to gather in a virtual chat room to see one another, to see your Open Heart family, and we invite you to tune in on that day. To log in on that day, you can go to our Open Heart website, ohsc901.com. That's ohsc901.com. And there you will find a button on the homepage that you can click that will take you into the virtual chat room. And you'll have an opportunity to see and to hear and to interact with one another. We'll do it kind of like we do our wine and words. We'll have a subject, a topic that we will use to open up our discussion. We had a great one last week where we talked about what gives you hope. And we will have a new topic that will be announced for this week, but we invite you to join us then. Now we're going to make another attempt to bring our own Britannia Allen singing Feeling Good. Again, we're working to tweak the audio and hopefully it will work this time. Well, we're going to work on that again. We thought we had it fixed this week, but we're going to continue to work on that because both Mary and Britannia did a great job. We want to say thank you to the both of them for putting the efforts in to get their songs online. We'll figure out what is not working and hopefully have it ready for you next week because from the test that we did, everything worked fine. But somehow when we went live, it changed things for us. And we also want to say a great thank you to our own music director, Mae Brophy, because she helped put the music part together and she has been working there remotely, doing not only things for us at Open Heart, but with the many other ways in which she shares her creative talents and abilities. She's been doing that as well. This morning, our message is singing in a strange land. Singing in a strange land. One of my favorite passages from the book of Psalms comes from Psalms number 137. And that is where the psalmist captures the sentiment of the people of Israel when he writes, "By the rivers of Babylon, we sat down and wept when we remembered Zion. We hung our harps, the musical instrument harps, upon the willows, and our captors demanded of us mirth, saying, 'Sing us one of the songs of Zion.'" But the question that was asked was, how can we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? We right now are in a strange time. There are many things that are happening differently. Rather than us gathering together in one location, we are streaming across many different locations, coming into your homes and many other places in this way. We're not able to go out the way that we'd like to. Yesterday, Emma and I were talking about going someplace out to a park, and we realized that the parks have limited access, and many other things that we ordinarily have been taking for granted that we've been able to do, we've not been able to do because it's a strange time. It can almost in some ways feel like that we are in captivity, if you will. That somehow we're not able to do the things that we once did. And because of that, we might feel stifled and stymied in the way that we view things. And I can relate to that. And I think about again the psalm where the people of Israel found themselves in Babylonian captivity. And there they were sad. They were remembering the days of old, remembering the way in which they used to do things. And they cried, they wept. The passage reminds us as they remembered the way that they were able to do things once. And then those who held them in captivity said something remarkable to them. "Sing us a song, provide us mirth, make us happy." And they said, "But how can we sing the Lord's song in a strange land?" Yesterday, my coach put together something that she called Coffee and Chat. And we gathered together in a virtual room. Some of us had coffee, some of us had tea, other things, but we gathered together, a number of us who were all affiliated with our coach, and we shared our progress. We shared our well-being, how we are doing things, how we are faring in this time. And one of the questions that arose from that conversation was, how can we, in the midst of this, feel happy and not feel guilty about being happy? Because after all, we could feel like that we've been called to be somber. Yes, there are somber statistics, things that are happening. There are people that are dying. There are other things that are happening with people and their economic status and those kinds of things. So to suggest in the midst of that, that we can still find happiness might seem strange. It might even seem like that we are minimizing the situation and the circumstance. But as we continue the conversation, we realize that there are some things to be happy about. There's some things in the midst of all that is taking place that we can indeed find some happiness, find some joy, some things to contribute to our well-being, our mental state. And that's what's important and necessary in this time. We can't allow ourselves to become overwhelmed. We can't allow ourselves to be pushed to a way into a place where we don't feel as if we have any hope. We can find things to be happy for and happy about. And the first thing we need to remember is that happiness is an inside job. Happiness is not dependent upon circumstances nor conditions. Oftentimes we will try to make it so. We'll talk about a person makes me happy. I found somebody, and after finding them, now my life is joyful. They make me happy, and then conversely, they can make us unhappy. Or situations and circumstances. As long as I have the things that I need and want, I feel happy. As long as those things, I've got money in my pocket and my bank account is full, I can feel happy. But those are external things, and those external things can be pulled away from us. But there is something that is deeper in us, an awareness that is ours, that we can touch and that we can find ourselves embracing, and embracing it, it makes us feel happy. We begin to know that we are happy. And this is where we're going with this. That when we recognize our inner place, our inner space, that place that is beyond condition, that place within us that can't be touched, our I am consciousness. This is where we come into the realization that indeed we have a space and place that moves through us, that informs us, that as our theme for this month is health and vitality, that contributes to our health and vitality and well-being. When we recognize and realize that, we can find some happiness. We can find even some joy. Many of you may be familiar with the hymn that was sung long ago and people still sing it. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me and the world didn't take it away. There's something that's beyond the external things. There's something beyond what is happening now that we can find joy in. We have to remember that a part of this journey, a part of this teaching is knowing that it's not what happens to us that is important, but it's our response to what is happening. And when our response can be that we know in the midst of all that is taking place, that God still is. God still is. And as I think about the psalm that I just talked about a moment ago, and I think about the people of Israel, one of the very strong things that kept them going, even in the midst of Babylonian captivity, even in the midst of what was a strange time for them, was their remembering. They're remembering not in a nostalgic way where they were clamoring for things to be the way that they used to be, but they're remembering how through all of it, God sustained and guided them in everything that they did. Their journey in the wilderness, and they're encountering many different things. And in the midst of that, God continued to be present. And even if it didn't seem like that, because sometimes when you think about on a cloudy day, when we walk outside and it's cloudy and gloomy, it sometimes can be difficult to remember that the sun is still shining. It might be obscured by the clouds, but the sun is still shining. And when we recognize this, when we realize this, when we embrace this, when we know this, when we know that we know that we know that the sun is still shining, we can have hope. We can find joy. I like the proverb that says that faith is like the bird that sings even while it's dark. The thing there to remind us is that the bird knows that dawn is coming, that the sunrise is coming. And while it might seem dark now, the bird has the capacity within it to feel the sun rising, the sun coming again, and it starts singing even then. And you and I have a capacity that we know, that we know, that we know that God is. God continues to be there. The Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron tells the story of a woman who was being chased by tigers. And as she ran and got to a cliff, and she found herself starting to slip, and as she slipped, turned around and looked at the tigers that were behind her, and she started to slip over the cliff. She was able to grab onto a vine that was holding her. But as she looked down below her, there were even more tigers down there waiting. And while she was hanging on the vine, she noticed a mouse that was nibbling on the vine. But there to the side was a bush with strawberries. And she says that how in that moment, the woman reached over, plucked the strawberry from the vine, began to bite it and savor it. And it was the sweetest strawberry she'd ever tasted. And in that moment, she recognized and realized the fullness and the vitality of the moment. And Pema Chodron says that life is like that for us. We're between birth and death, and we can either be in a state of despair, in a state of worry, or we can savor the moment, even though there are things before us, things behind us, but in the present moment is our point of power. That is the place, that is the time, that is the way we can begin singing, even in a strange land. And so it is. I'd like to remind you that as we continue forward in this time of being remote as a community, as a faith community and a congregation, that we also continue to need your support. And as you can see on the screen, there is the number that you can text the word give to make your contributions. They're very much appreciated. I know for many people it's can be a strain, but whatever you can do is helpful. You can also go to our website at ohsc901.com, and there you can make a contribution by clicking on the link that says give. We appreciate all that you do, all of your support for us at Open Heart Spiritual Center. May you continue to do all that you can to be safe, remain safe, to know that all is well with you, to know your well-being and all that you do. Thank you. We greet you. We bless you. We see God in you. Namaste.